Good evening and welcome to the official RTE News Election Debate. I am Jeremy O'Mara and I will be moderating this debate for tonight. As we speak, we are live at Donnybrook where we have gathered party leaders and representatives from all of the 5 parties contesting in the general election to make their case. From left to right, we have Dean R. Heathcote from Sinn Féin. Unfortunately, our Social Democrat representative was unable to make it tonight. We have James Atchison from Fine Gael, Killian C. Iker from the Labour Party, and Dermot O'Donovan from Fianna Fáil. We would like to remind our audience that booing, outbursts and cheering are not allowed. That way our candidates will be focused on questions posed by our team. We would like to thank you for your cooperation and for watching. We will now start off with opening statements. Each representative will have 2 minutes to read their statement to the crowd. From left to right, we'll start with Uachtaráin Sinn Féin.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Hello, it's me, Dean. I don't know who that Dean R. Heathcote guy is. Never heard of him. I'm Dean O'Connor now. Now, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. If you want to read in a very easy format all of Sinn Féin's policies, refer to our manifesto. It's in bullet point format. It's probably the easiest to understand thing. You actually have to be from primary school to not understand it. But that aside, this election, not any different from any other, gotta be honest. Same parties, same people, generally the same policies being regurgitated every 5 minutes. So I've got nothing special to say other than the fact that I've ran governments before. I know what to expect on the global stage, and I know how to deal with a few protesters if they get a bit uppity in, Middletown. Just send in a few of the Chinese Communist Party's best riot police. But jokes aside, if you want someone who can actually run a government, actually knows what to implement, and actually has a plan to implement, then Sinn Féin's the party for you. Don't bother reading the high-effort paragraphs from other parties because, trust me, you're not going to get past the 4 words on them. Read Sinn Féin's manifesto, see all the policies. I'm going to talk about them tonight a little bit, with the shouting from other party leaders, but that's my introduction. I'm definitely going to run out of time, I think, but I don't know how long 2 minutes is. So, improv speech done. Thank you very much. Vote Sinn Féin. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to now the leader from Fine Gael, or not the leader, the representative, my apologies, and that is James Atchison.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Yeah, so basically, to kind of reiterate what Dean said, if you look at the manifestos that have come out, guys, there's nothing different. It's the same rubbish that's being spewed by parties, the same parties that can be, urged to blame for the mess that we're in. You look at the Justice Department, you look at business, the way it's going, you look at the foreign affairs is the only thing that we've been strong on. And to be honest, Fine Gael during this whole entire term has held the Labour government to account, and we want to station ourselves as that real alternative to government. So basically, I'm not going to sit and lie to you. I'm going to be brutally honest. We have come up with new policies, and we're going to highlight them tonight. And the manifesto will be out soon. But I'll be honest, just go with your gut. You have to trust your gut and just go with it. Don't listen to the rest of the rubbish that the rest of these guys are going to say. They're going to just spew whatever they want, try and get your vote. Just don't be manipulated by them. Be smart, be wise, vote Fine Gael.
Thank you, James and Dean, for your opening statements. We'll now move to the representative from the Labour Party, that is Killian C. Iker. Please take it away.
Thanks, Jeremy, for that lovely introduction there. Again, yeah, I'm brilliant. I'm delighted to be joined by other leaders on this stage to not just be held to account, but also hold others to account for their policy. And I have to agree with them that a lot of policies we're seeing in manifestos have just been regurgitated from previous ones, again and again and again. And I like to think that Labour is going to be that party, is the party that always brings around ambition and innovation and new ideas to this country. And I have to say that under the last 2 governments, Ireland has really been delivered for. I mean, although we have had our ups and downs, as every government does, we have absolutely, undeniably, indisputably been that progressive government that have really thrown Ireland to the forefront of international politics, our economy better than ever, I like to think, as the person who's been running it for the past while. Our ministers have continuously been active and dedicated. And this new cabinet being proposed by Labour is absolutely dedicated and will continue to be as the last government has been. Again, while we do not have a manifesto out yet, I'm willing to reveal any of our policies, all of our candidates during this debate. Everything is out on the table, all of my cards are being shown. And yeah, I'm excited to take part in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Killian, for that statement. We're going to move now to the representative from Fianna Fáil, Dermot O'Donovan.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be back here. Thank you, Jeremy. Basically, what I'm going to be outlining tonight is Fianna Fáil's plan to grow Ireland and innovate the nation to a new point that hasn't been seen before under Labour or any of the previous governments. I mean, Fianna Fáil has been a party that hasn't been elected to government before, and we have managed to make it into opposition this time, and we've got our eyes set on government. So what we're proposing this time is new ideas and a new sort of force to take Ireland forward. Current government, which has been in government, might I say, Labour for 4 months, they've promised to make changes and to bring the nation forward. But what we actually have is we've got an unattended justice sector. We've got an inactive national ambulance service. And things really do need to change, and that's why I'm here to talk to you tonight about why Fianna Fáil is that choice that's going to take Ireland forward. And I hope that you will listen to what I say and really do consider when it comes to election day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dermot, for that wonderful statement, and thank you all the party leaders for those really thrilling statements. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We're now going to move on to some questions. We're going to begin with some domestic affairs questions. Each party leader will have 60 seconds to answer their question on behalf of their party. So we'll jump right in with Dean. The first question, correction, we're going to start with Dermot. So, Dermot, your first question tonight is: it is undisputable that our courts are going through a rough patch as of current due to a lack of cases. That being said, what will you do in order to encourage citizens to use our justice system, and what reforms will you make to it?
Well, thank you very much for your question. First of all, this current government, they promised us 3 mock trials in their programme for government. That wasn't delivered. The Taoiseach then came forward in front of the Dáil and told us that we'd get 2. And funnily enough, that wasn't delivered either. So what we were given by Labour this term was an inactive judicial branch. But in terms of what Fianna Fáil is offering is, yes, we are going to be offering mock trials, which is a policy that many parties take forward, and it's sort of going with status quo. So we're going to be doing that, but what more in sort of terms of innovative ideas, we're going to be establishing the National Barristers Agency, which will sort of replace the Legal Aid Board, which in recent months has sort of started to make a decline in activity. So what we're going to be doing in that is we're going to be educating Irish citizens on law, and also offering them with a sort of a board place where they can get legal representation when in a court of law. So that's sort of going to be replacing the Legal Aid Board, and it will be helping, educating and growing our judicial sector and representing the Irish people in any ways that we can within the Department for Justice.
Thank you, Dermot, for your answer. We're going to move now on to Killian. It's the same question. If you'd like me to read it out again, please ask.
No thanks. I think I remember it anyway.
All right,
Um,
the floor is yours.
well, yeah, well, I'm kind of laughing really how Labour's kind of lack on delivering. I mean, you've mentioned the mock trials not being delivered. You're absolutely right. We did promise 3 mock trials, which was taken down to 2. But unfortunately, not only could we not deliver on that, I think it's been blown out of proportion by Fianna Fáil. Because to pretend and act as though our entire judicial branch relies on mock trials would be a lie to the Irish people. And I think the Irish people know better than to be deceived. The truth is that Labour this term are actually offering brilliant reforms to the justice system. And I just have to say, our Justice Minister is Kamla, who I believe was the Justice Secretary of Dean in the United Kingdom, but not only was she a Shanador last term, I believe, she's incredibly experienced and has a list of accomplishments behind that name. And I have to say, we're going to be introducing in-game prosecution for high court offences, so murder, terrorism, and all that. We're going to make provisions for trained lay magistrates, contract law, non-disclosure agreements, a system of chambers, notaries, a judicial appointments advisory board, finish the court civil procedures. I mean, the list goes on. And I just have to say, this entire department, I'm so happy we got a question on it, because although I despise the Department of Justice, as I'm sure many leaders would have to say I do, because I think the only achievement I have in that department is my bar certificate. I think Labour has really brought innovative policies to the table, and whilst I like to think that our delivery the past term has been brilliant for the judicial branch.
Sorry, Killian, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. Sadly,
Alright.
your minute has elapsed. Just to make it fair for all the other party leaders, we're going to move now to the Fine Gael representative, Mr. James Atchison. It's the same question, and you have 1 minute.
Cheers, thank you. I find it kind of hypocritical that Labour's just said what they did there, because to be honest, we're in the mess that we are because of the past Labour administration. So I do find it kind of hypocritical. In terms of Fine Gael, what we're planning to offer, as many of you will know, I was in the High Court for this, so I know well and truly how messed up it is. We want to expand the Supreme Court, so many of you don't actually know. Supreme Court's supposed to be a consultative body where it's just not one person making decisions. As you know, Conor Novak's actually on it, so we want to add another person in there. We want to expand that High Court. We only have one High Court judge in the moment, so we want to add another person in there. We want to authorise some in-game crime. Obviously, that will be consulted with group staff. That will be a wider consultation with the Dáil and so forth. We want to review the Garda training scheme. There's so many different initiatives that we want to introduce that we hope and pray that will kind of revive our judiciary. We want to give that boost. We want to boost the private sector. We want to make it easier to get legal aid, and whether that's through some sort of database, whether that's through a ticket system, something like that, so that people actually know who to go to get help when they're looking to open cases. And speaking from experience, I do know that some people have had issues with that. So things like that, just small little things, little tweaks that could actually make a big difference. And it's something new. It's maybe a new approach. Maybe it's a new enthusiasm to actually do something with the judiciary, and which I think Labour has failed to do in the previous administrations.
Thank you, James, for that answer. We'll move now to leader of Sinn Féin, Dean R. O'Connor. It's the same question, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Right, I'm going to be honest. What all the other parties just said is, pardon my French here, ladies and gentlemen, total utter bollocks. If you want the courts to be active, you need to sort of cause a bit of drama. I've got to be honest. At the end of the day, how do you get the courts active? Well, you cause court cases. How do you cause court cases? Drama. Pit people against each other. And I have just the solution for this. What is an area that keeps generating drama? The media. Trust me, we've got people like Facilio Quinley, DNC Mark, Jamie. I bet you right now they are all willing to sue the hell out of each other. Even Valorist, maybe. So, get rid of the press council, invest all the power into the press ombudsman, Ashton Crawshaw, best man who's ever lived, and just have him make all the decisions. And if the media company doesn't like it, they sue the absolute crap out of him. Again, pardon my French, I'm sorry to RTE in advance. That is how you get court activity at the end of the day. You're not going to get it through criminal cases because the Garda will stand opposed to it, and I'm sure even Sequatic, the Garda commissioner, has said he's not too fond of it. You're not going to get it through criminal cases. You're just not. You're going to have to expand on civil law, which you can do via non-disclosure agreements, another pledge of Sinn Féin's, and by just the media suing the absolute crap out of again, pardon my French, the press ombudsman. That's how you get court cases at the end of the day. There's no simpler way to go about it. You can say,
Sorry,
I'm going to
Dean, I'm gonna have
rebrand
to
stuff,
interrupt
but
you there.
no. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Your 60 seconds has elapsed. We're going to move on to the next question now. Still on domestic affairs, and again, we're going to start with Dermot O'Donovan, and you all have 1 minute. The question is, although we've seen activity with the National Ambulance Service, there's still a long way to go until it becomes a fully fledged service. With that in mind, what plans do your party have in order to recognise the service and its functions? Dermot O'Donovan.
Well, thank you very much for your question. Now, although in our manifesto we don't specifically highlight plans for the National Ambulance Service. We certainly do we certainly do wish to continue with policies that we've proposed in the past, which do link on to some of the policies in similarities to ones that Sinn Féin are proposing today. Last election, we were proposing reforms to the National Ambulance Service, and those did include sort of restructuring the whole organisation. And Labour came out at the time and sort of talked about how they delivered on that. But it's quite interesting to see how that worked out for them. We've currently got a completely inactive National Ambulance Service, so I stand by what I said 2 months ago in terms of completely restructuring the organisation, because otherwise it's simply not going to go anywhere. Also, they need stuff to do, which they do, but it requires cooperation between emergency services and between the government, which factors in with that, and then as well the reorganisation, which is all stuff that Fianna Fáil is willing to get on with and do if we are elected into government.
Thank you, Dermot, for your answer.
If I can interrupt, I am so sorry, but I'm not
Yeah,
letting any of
go
that
for it.
slide. If you can give me 30 seconds, Mr. Moderator. So two things to unpack there. The Fianna Fáil leader basically just said he doesn't give a crap and he's going to regurgitate policies he's already pledged. Now, I'm just saying this as a paramedic myself, National Ambulance Service. I'll tell you how to solve it. Pass a new National Ambulance Service Act to actually get a better structure for the service, actually sort out gold, silver, and bronze command, establish a reserve so you can actually attract people to the service if they have employment elsewhere, like in the IDF and in the Garda, and sort out the training. The training is abysmal right now, and the PR is non-existent. Look at the Garda. They had an amazing PR campaign back in the day, and they're probably one of the best services this community has to offer. Get a PR campaign sorted, and these are Sinn Féin pledges, by the way. Get the training sorted, get the structure sorted. That is the 3-point plan right there to get the NAS on par with the Garda within a few weeks. I'm telling you that right now. And Fianna Fáil, standing over there near me, they're not planning that at all. They're spitting garbage in your faces. So I'm using my time there. I'm saying that very bluntly. Labour didn't do it. They had 4 months. Fianna Fáil won't do it if they get 2 months. Only Sinn Féin's going to do it in maybe a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dermot, for your answer, and Dean there for contributing. We're going to move now on to the Labour Party leader. Killian, it's the same question. You have
Yep.
1 minute.
Thank you, Jeremy. Well, I think what we've heard from both Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin is just kind of really the highlight of Labour's campaign. I mean, we have Fianna Fáil over here who are dull, zero optimism about the service, no ambition, and we have Sinn Féin who are kind of regurgitating what I consider to be not ambition but actual incorrect ideas for the service. I mean, we in the current National Ambulance Service Act, there is a gold command outline, there is a silver and bronze command outline. So I don't get why
It's
that's
poorly written. Like, it's genuinely poorly written. Compare it with the Garda Act. Compare it right now. You will see the differences.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I have it open here. It has all the structure listed. It has.
And compare it with the Garda Act.
down to
You can
paramedic.
see the differences.
Well, I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree. But not only that, we do agree on some points. I mean, graphics and resources for a campaign to join the National Ambulance Service, that has to be established. I think that's a flagship policy of Labour's, because these public services, as we head into 2023, need to be boosted yet again, as Labour have done before, I like to think. And again, trainings, I mean, that's pretty basic. That's essential policy for the National Ambulance Service.
Killian, I apologise. I'm going to have to
That's
interject.
fine. I just
Your
finished.
time
Yeah.
has elapsed.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make it known, if you wish to interject, that is perfectly fine. But if you could just allow for the full minute to elapse for interjecting, just so we can have everything done in a timely fashion. We're going to move now on to the Fine Gael representative, Mr. James Atherton. It is the same question. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be honest with you, the National Ambulance Service, there's a little bit of hope there. I think there's promise there. I don't think it's fair just to completely write it off. I think the people that are in it are trying their best, but I think major improvements can definitely be made. I would kind of agree with like elements of what everyone was kind of said, you know. I think PR campaign is desperately needed. I know one's within it, and they talk about the training, and Dean has just talked about the training. It is abysmal, and I definitely think that needs to be improved. I think instead of completely wiping the slate, I think you can maybe work with the command structure and the leadership that's there and help them improve rather than just completely writing them off. I know in Fine Gael, you know, obviously we don't like to write people off, and we kind of like to give people a bit of chance and support. I think maybe it's support that the Labour governments haven't been giving them. So I think that's maybe something, you know, that Labour should maybe take on to note. But yeah, that's our plans. We plan to help them with the PR, give them that little bit of a boost, help them with the training, and give them that little bit of boost. Introduce, you know, like make it more aware, make people actually aware of what these guys do. You know, kind of be like, right here, guys. You know
James,
what?
I must
There's obviously guys
apologize,
like on
but
it.
I am to be kept
No,
on
you're
a
totally
very
fine.
tight schedule.
No worries.
Thank you very much for your answer. We're going to move now on to the leader of Sinn Féin, Dean O'Connor. It's the same question. You have 1 minute.
All right, I'll cut my time in half because I waffled earlier. Right, 3-point plan. I'll pretty much regurgitate. Honestly, get PR sorted. One of the big reasons why NAS is failing right now is simple. It's just not advertised properly. Look at the old Garda campaigns they used to do. Tweets, actual good graphics, actually putting the applications out weekly. That is something the NAS does not do right now. Get that sorted, you'll get people in. Simple as. But that's not going to be enough. You actually need to make the service attractive to join. So establish a reserve corps. Why establish a reserve corps? Because a lot of people have a lot of jobs in Ireland right now, and there is employment legislation. So what's a good way to get around that? Establish a reserve corps. The IDF has it, Garda has it. Establish one for NAS. Put them on parity with other services. Third part, actually get the training in order. Now, got to be honest, I'm a paramedic, but I haven't been trained properly to use the ACS medic system that we're actually like is integral to our jobs. So we actually need to be trained to use that. There needs to be training manuals. There actually needs to be a coherent training directorate, and that is Sinn Féin's pledge. Set up the National Ambulance Service College, the training directorate of the NAS. It's as simple as that. That will get
Dean,
the
I'm very
NAS
sorry,
in
but I'm
time.
going to have
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
interrupt
I'm
you
done.
there. We're going to move on to the third question now. Again, we're going to begin with Dermot. The question is, governing in Ireland is absolutely not an easy task. With that, what will you do? What do you think needs to be done differently in the government, and how do you intend to achieve reforming its functions? Dermot, you have 1 minute.
Much. So yeah, this was something that I did mention in our manifesto. So what my plan basically is to reactivate sort of this idea of activity between the government and the people. I mean, Labour sort of attempted to do that in their first term out of the two that they've had recently. The one that we were in a coalition with them with, we had the surgery, but then we also didn't have any government Q&As, which was something that was done during the Sinn Féin Fianna Fáil coalition government, and that's something I would like to bring back. So Fianna Fáil would host 2 of them in total, 1 a month. That's where we can hear the people's concerns. We can hear what they're concerned about mid-term, so that it isn't just left up to election periods. And finally, we are offering apprenticeships in the civil service, allowing people to get more involved in that sector of the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Dermot, for your answer. We're going to move on to Killian, who is the leader of the Labour Party. You
you,
have 1
Jeremy.
minute, and it's the same question.
Right, so I think the government issue is a very easy one to fix because it's in the first part, it's not really that big an issue. I mean, Tom was a very open Taoiseach. Again, I think I have different leadership aspects in terms of being leader in Taoiseach, but he was a pretty open leader. I mean, there's not much to criticise there. Government is quite open. He was at a Shannon surgery, so I'm not sure what the Fianna Fáil leader is trying to suggest, but not. I think it's less and less about filler policy, like a Q&A every month. I mean, you can tell that was kind of just thrown in as if to say we're looking low on the government section. Will you throw in a question and answer period there? That's clearly what's happened there. I think I will bring back statements or weekly reports from the Taoiseach on things like legislation and obviously progress within government. But not only that, I would be willing to just be active in Ireland voice chats and continue to communicate with the regular citizen, because it's not that difficult to fix an issue like transparency. It just takes a bit of common sense, and filler policy like Q&A is not going to fix that. I'm sure other leaders agree. That's all. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you, Cillian, for your answer there. We're going to move on to the Fine Gael representative. Mr. James Atchison, you have 1 minute and it's the same question.
Thank you. I know on our side what we want to do is obviously make everything so much more transparent. So really we have these kind of we have basically 3 or 4 main policies here. We obviously want to be completely open with folk about what we're doing. So I think to do that, people don't read the cabinet reports. What we plan to do is kind of issue some sort of slides, some sort of bullet points of being this is what we've done this week, just so people are aware. I think it's important that the government acts for the people. So I know Vicky wants to start up a VC. I know Dean will also remember this from the UK as well, where the Taoiseach actually answers the questions from the people, goes into the VC in the server, has that chat with the people. In terms of the Senate, the upper chamber, we want to have that referendum. I know Vicky's very passionate about this. She wants to give the people a choice on that. And really, overall, we just want a government that works for the people. And I think that's really important. That's what Ireland needs right now, to actually listen to its members of the community.
Thank you, James, for your answer there. We're going to move now on to the Uachtaráin of Sinn Féin. Dean O'Connor, it's the same question, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Honestly, everything my opponents just said, basic. Transparency, probably the most basic word you hear every single election. How about a different word? And bear with me here. Honesty. How do you achieve honesty? Voice calls. How do you achieve voice calls? Pretty simple. Stage channels. Now, James hinted at this 5 seconds ago. Stage channel conferences. Honestly, you get a lot more honesty out of people when they're in voice call. And I did them in the UK. I think a lot of people watching this stream will know I did them in the UK a lot. James will know it. Killian will know it. Everyone here will know it. So you get a lot more honesty out of your leaders, especially this one right here. If you vote him into power, Sinn Féin, you'll get a lot more honesty out of me if I'm doing a stage channel conference, which I will absolutely do. You know what else is honest? Having an ombudsman. How does that connect together? It just does. We're going to establish the office of the ombudsman, who will essentially be Ireland's public campaign manager. Complaint manager, not campaign. They're basically just going to accept all your complaints
Dean,
about
I'm
services.
very sorry, but I'm going to have to interrupt you.
Yeah, I definitely waffled too much there.
We are on a tight schedule tonight.
Would I be able to add to that?
Fair enough.
Would I be able to just add to that?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I just have to say, Dean, I consider us to be pretty close, but in all honesty, for want of a better word, I suppose, I think what you've just done there is regurgitate a policy that every leader here except Diarmuid committed to. You have
stage channel conferences, mate. I invented that concept.
You probably did in the UK, but every leader here in Ireland just committed to that, so I don't get what kind of alternative that's providing.
Well, I'm fun. That's my alternative.
Okay,
I'm fun in VC.
Brilliant alternative. I think many people.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm afraid I'm going to have to interrupt you both. We are on a very tight schedule tonight.
Thanks, Jeremy.
I'm going to have to move on to the next section of questions. We're going to move now on to economic affairs. It's one question for this section. It's 1 minute each, and we're going to start off with Dean O'Connor. The question is, throughout the past general elections, we have not seen many new economic policies being brought forth by parties. That being said, what will your party do to change the narrative and encourage economic growth? Dean, you have 1 minute.
I don't think I can fit this in 1 minute. Anyway, now, the same policy basically got regurgitated by every single party this election, which is, give aids to businesses. Okay, well, how about you suck on these aids? That did not ring right. Anyway, we're going to set up Enterprise Ireland. They'll literally just give aids to businesses, as in business management aid, resources, all that. Moving on, we're also going to set up national apprenticeships. Now, Fianna Fáil have the exact same policy, but we're going to set up an agency with it. It's called SOLAS. Irish people will actually know what that is. But it's essentially Further Education Skills Service. In Irish, it is abbreviated SOLAS, or SOLAS, and it literally provides the national apprenticeship scheme with the civil service, with the private sector, you name it. We're going to set that up. And now the economy is just jobs. There is no actual stock market in this community, so jobs is the economy. So anything that encourages employment is probably very valued right now for the economy, because it is the economy. And while I've got about 10 seconds left, we're also going to add the jobs.ie webpage on the government website that Biruk is paying out of his own pocket to manage, so that it's also linked up to a webhook in the island server so they can actually advertise jobs automatically, and it's just fully automated and all
Dean,
that. I'm out of time.
Interrupt you. We're going to move now on to the Fine Gael representative, James Ashton. It is 1 minute, and it's the same question.
Cheers, Jeremy. Thank you very much. I think we can all agree here that, business is kind of suffering within Ireland. I don't know if it's really anyone's fault as such. It's just the way things are going. In Fine Gael, what we want to do is we want to attract international business. Obviously, that will link in with our foreign affairs and how we come across as a strong, independent nation. We obviously want to help businesses within ourselves, kind of similar to what Sinn Féin has just said. We want to start business management assistance division, where basically businesses with their grievances will come to us. We'll have that in the Department of Business and Enterprise server, where they can raise their issues and it'll be addressed within 20 to 48 hours. It just means that it's an easier way for business to communicate with the government, and it makes it more transparent and more efficient. We want to start up non-government medical businesses, try and get that business going. We want to encourage more business spotlights, something that has been lacking in some places, and it kind of gives the businesses, especially media, a little bit of a boost, and a little bit of an ego boost, which we all need sometimes. And we want to encourage more in-game businesses. How we think we can do that is work with the devs.
Sorry, James, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. Thank you.
Can I give a comment?
Okay, I waffle.
Yeah, you can.
I'd like to give a comment. I have a question for my Fine Gael counterpart, actually. So in their campaign post, it says that they're pledging, quote, a 45% increase in employment across the public and private sector by investing in jobs and infrastructure to enhance roleplay. Now, I've got to be honest, that just sounds like a lot of waffle added to the post to make it look longer. So can you actually tell me how you're going to invest in jobs, and can Fine Gael actually guarantee a 45% increase in employment? And also, what measure is that being done by? Because a lot of people have multiple jobs in this community, including, I'm pretty sure most of the population.
Yeah, 100%. So basically what we plan to do, and I'll stick by Vicky with the 45%, I think it's perfectly achievable. If you just put your mind to it, which some people have failed to do. I think really what we want to do is to try and make it more efficient, more easy, maybe highlight it through maybe PR, media, and just be here, you know what, why don't you just start a business, whether that's media, which is thriving, or if it's some other sort of business, some obscure thing that hasn't been done in Ireland. Your only limit is your imagination, so why don't you? I think that really needs to be promoted, and I think that's what we're looking to do. Obviously registration as well takes some time. So we're obviously trying to make that as efficient, as effective as possible, make it as easy as possible to register a business. I think, people see these new businesses coming on, they'll be like, hey, why don't I go and join that? It's a bit of crack, why not? So I think it's that kind of mentality, that can-do attitude that maybe Ireland has just been kind of lacking, and the previous governments have been kind of lacking.
All right, so you're pledging what I'm pledging, but in vaguer terms. Got it. Just had to clarify.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for both of your responses there. We're going to now move on to the leader of the Labour Party. Killian, you have 1 minute, and it's the same question.
Thanks, Jeremy. So I think what I've just heard from those other two parties have kind of solidified Ireland's economic death with either of those parties in power. I mean, jobs.ie, a government website, not only will it be hard for business owners to kind of reach such an institution with jobs.ie, nobody's going to go onto the government website looking for a job.
Have you heard of direct messages, Killian?
Yeah, and I've also heard of public and private employment channels, which are far easier to access once given a role.
It'll be linked
I just
to
have to
them.
say,
It's automated.
As a former Minister of Business, as the current, incumbent Minister of Business and Enterprise and Innovation, Labour is the champion of business. Okay, we definitely are. I have to say we have so much policies being introduced with business because I actually love this department. Okay, I really do. We're going to create Chambers Ireland, which has never been done before for business owners. It's a pretty basic policy. I understand that, but it's absolutely one that's needed. We're going to protect consumers with a Supply of Services Act, and obviously we have contracts and non-disclosure agreements coming in for businesses who want that. But again, what we've heard from Fine Gael has just further solidified.
Killian, I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop you there.
All right. Thanks,
We're
Jeremy.
going to now move to Dermot O'Donovan, the leader of Fianna Fáil. You have 1 minute, and it's the same question.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the leader of Sinn Féin for not mentioning the fact that the policy of sort of supporting those small and growing businesses through the use of a new organisation or whatnot was actually carried through by Fianna Fáil in the last manifesto, and it's not just in this current one. The small business guarantee, which is our form of this policy, which is so-called being carried through with every party. While other parties are just sitting here saying we're going to offer resources, we can actually tell you what we're going to be offering. One of those is one of which is a handbook, which is going to be containing information about the political climate of Ireland, as well as steps to growth, and helping small and growing businesses and new businesses in Ireland, as well as businesses that are coming in from foreign nations, helping them to understand how they can grow their business in Ireland, because we have quite an independent economy. We're not the same as all the other nations in the international community. And so we need to make sure that that is established through our policy in the business sector and helping to grow the economy through, as Dean said, which I must agree with, our economy is reliant on
Dermot,
jobs.
I'm very sorry, but I'm going to have to interrupt you there.
Can I add a
But
comment
I,
onto
yeah, but
his?
I have something to add to that as well.
Actually, Killian, you go first.
Can I go first, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Well, I just have to say, I mean, it's incredible what we're hearing from Fianna Fáil, further kind of solidifying that they are an out-of-touch party. A handbook, which, by the way, their own leader's words is about 20 pages. No business owner wants to read that. No entrepreneur is going to be inspired by a handbook about the political climate of Ireland. I mean, other party leaders will have to agree with me on this one. Not only that, Ireland's economy has been more strengthy than ever. I mean, we've cut response times, and I just have to say, it's a complete and utter failure on the part of Fianna Fáil to introduce lack of ambition to our economy. Thanks, Jeremy.
I have one thing to add onto what Killian said.
Sorry,
take 20 seconds. So one of Fianna Fáil's plans that I've read is I think this is one of Crawlerian's bills that I guess has been forced onto this manifesto now that he's retiring, the infrastructure bill. Now, if I remember correctly, and Killian, I think, will definitely be the one to correct me here. This is the unconstitutional one, if I remember correctly. The one regulating developers. Now, I've got to be honest, Ireland works on a system of just direct message them and they will probably do it. Trust me, we all have lives, I understand, except me, I'm a lowlife. But they will. You don't need a failure standards obligation. Imagine going to an Irish developer and saying, you have failed to meet our developer standards by the Taoiseach. That is just, they will quit on the spot. They will quit on the spot. I'm sorry. No Irish developer's ever going to tolerate that. So just, what the hell is the point of this bill other than to look like you're doing something about development? Just let them do the development. We're getting a new game in about approximately 4 months, hopefully. Pray tell
Dean, I'm afraid I'm
well.
going to have to interrupt
Yeah, sorry
you
about that.
there.
Go ahead.
Thank you both for your responses, and thank you, Dermot, for answering the question. We're going to move now to the representative of Fine Gael. Yes, sorry, my apologies, but leader of the Labour Party, Killian Uithker. You have 60 seconds, and it's the same question.
Is this the question about Ireland's economics?
It is the question
I believe I've already answered that, I feel like.
Oh yes, my apologies. We
all right,
have
that's all right.
finished that section. I do apologise. We're going to move now on to international affairs. We are going to have 2 seconds, and it's the same standards, 60 seconds each. We're going to start with the leader of Sinn Féin. Your first question is: Irish unification has, in recent times, taken the majority of attention from the Department of Foreign Affairs. What does your party plan to do in order to safeguard Irish unification and encourage its recognition by countries which yet remain undecided on it?
You have 60 seconds. Dean, this is you.
Sorry about that. I got interrupted. IRL. Sorry, real life came at me very quickly. Got to be
fine.
honest with you. There isn't a UK in the UN, so Irish unification is not going to be threatened anytime soon. And there's already a thing that Ireland and William Cathcart, God bless his heart, enforce on the Security Council, which is we're not going to let a UK in unless they acknowledge Irish unification. So there's really not the worry of that. I don't think we need to start fear-mongering about the return of King Robert and his English armies that will storm Dublin Castle. I don't think that's a worry at all. Irish foreign affairs is in a pretty good place at this point. We just need to build on the successes we've already made, which is with organisations like ASEAN and the OAS, which I believe we got observer status in recently. Killian can probably correct me because he's in government right now, and we'll know that. Thank you. And just generally speaking, get closer with France and the Netherlands. Geographically close allies. I know the foundations have been laid for policing cooperation already
Dean,
by
I'm gonna
Labour.
have to interrupt you.
Yeah, fair
Thank
enough.
you
I
very
took
much.
long.
Can I just interject?
Thank you very much for the. Sorry, Killian, do you want to make a
Yeah,
response?
it's really quick. I just have to say that is general misinformation, by the way. The
What?
joint policing operations was not agreed by all partners at the Tri Summit. That's
All right. Well, Tom lied to me, so you might want to talk to him about that.
I know that's just not true.
Tom told me it's already been laid. The foundations got laid for it. Apparently got discussed.
I've told
So
you already.
you're going to need to talk to him about that.
Don't trust the deep state.
Don't trust the deep state. Honestly, that's probably the best thing Labour has said all debate.
So true.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to now move to the representative from Fine Gael, Mr. James Atchison. It is the same question, and you have 1 minute.
Cheers, thank you. I think Dean is completely right in what he just said. Irish unification is definitely not under threat. We'll hold our 32 counties, we'll hold the North. I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon, to be honest. And I think because Ireland is really a good, strong position in the world stage. We've done well for ourselves. We've come a long way since I was last Taoiseach. And it's great to see. So I think really from Fine Gael, what we want to do is, we want to keep those relationships with our allies going. We want to meet with these guys, hold more summits. Like the Tri Summit, I would say was a success, and I will definitely tip my hat to Tom when it's due. So he definitely did well on that side. I think security cooperation is important. Kind of builds activity for both our policing sectors and the military as well. So it's definitely something that we'd look to continue. Maybe I know Vicky has talked about like Foreign Affairs Week, and she's very passionate about this, where there's a week that we're going to dedicate to opening up the foreign department, letting people actually inside get a glimpse of what we actually do in these meetings and stuff. Give them that opportunity, kind of like give them a little bit of a buzz. She's very passionate about the diplomatic sector, and it's something that she wants to expand upon. So that's what we want to do in Fine Gael. We want to keep Ireland strong on the world stage and make sure there's no blunders, which none of us want.
Thank you, James, for your answer there. We're going to move now to the leader of the Labour Party, Mr. Killian Ithaker. Yeah. It's the same question, and you have 1 minute.
Thanks, Sharon. Jeremy. Whoops. So I just want to say what we've heard from the other two leaders. I suppose you couldn't really call it policy. You could call it an approach, which Labour has an approach, which is obviously to embrace Irish identity across the globe, continue to take strides with our partners in France and the Netherlands, as we have done with the Tri Summit, laying brilliant foundations. But I haven't heard any commitments, many commitments even, which is something we should be hearing from a Taoiseach on this stage. And I have to say, Labour does have a commitment. We are going to hold, and these commitments have been filtered through civil servants, and we've taken the advice of professionals on this policy. We're going to hold between 3 to 5 foreign meetings every week. We are taking strides to pass at least 2 diplomatic treaties. And I think those are the kind of commitments you want to hear from a Taoiseach on the stage, which I hate to say it because I love this country, but it's lacking from other party leaders. Thanks, Jeremy.
I have to interrupt, but it's not about what Killian said. My brain just clocked in. So I think James said something along the lines of like getting the public involved in foreign affairs meetings. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie. Quickly, you have 2 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
I didn't exactly say that, but okay.
I don't know. I remember something about public being able to watch meetings. I was just going to say that's a bit of a security risk, and trust me, I've experienced enough foreign meetings to know that's a security risk.
I can clarify that, Jeremy, if you would like me.
Yep, you can respond.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So basically, the idea is it's not actual foreign affairs meetings. It's actually kind of like more of a meet and greet, kind of just to discuss what's going on the world stage, just to actually give people that opportunity to find out more. I think it's really like an initiative. It's kind of like an employment drive, because Vicky is very keen to expand the diplomatic sector. Just to give a bit of clarity, so I do apologise if that wasn't clear for you, Dean. But I am
I hate
well
to
aware.
say this, but you don't need to expand the diplomatic sector. We have Dan Nemour, Daniel Kennedy, and we have William Cathcart. I think we're sorted, and we also have Sequatic and Lynn. Like, we've got some of the best diplomats in the community.
Yes.
We're sorted. We don't need to hire more.
James, would you like to respond to that?
I mean, I think it's really important, like whilst those guys are brilliant, and I'll tip my hats to them, I think it's important, there is that next generation. And if they aren't given the opportunities to actually learn from the best, how are they going to be the best, So I think it's important to keep that in mind.
Trust me, they're not going anytime soon. Dan Neem and William, they're probably here to stay for a while. And if they do eventually retire, again, Lynn and Sequatic, they held the ship for about a year before they arrived. So I think we're good. I don't think we need to worry about a sudden brain drain in the DFA. I feel like we should be focusing on internal affairs rather than worrying about them vanishing
Dean,
one day.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
interrupt
Yeah,
you. We're gonna have to move on now. So we're gonna move to the leader of Fianna Fáil, Dermot. It's the same question, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm a bit confused as to how the past two responses that I've got from the past two parties relate to Irish unification, but I'm sure that they were another. But in terms of unification and ensuring that that is recognised globally, Fianna Fáil is sort of taking a slightly new approach with that. I remember standing here 2 months ago for this debate, and I heard everyone going, "Oh, we need to block the United Kingdom. We need to ignore them. We need to wait until they recognise us." Well, now that United Kingdom's gone, we need to ensure that the path is paved for the rest of the international community to recognise us, and for the next United Kingdom to join to recognise unification. And the chances is that Ireland will hold an upper ground in that situation. I mean, Ireland now is one of the largest nations in the United Nations, along with France and the Netherlands. And we have this incredible alliance that has that the foundations have been laid for, that will hopefully continue over the next few months. And so I don't see why we shouldn't use that when the next United Kingdom joins. Help ensure that there is a sort of smooth transfer there, and that the United Kingdom is satisfied and understanding of Irish unification, to sort of prevent there from being any more conflict within the British Isles on that matter. And that's what Fianna Fáil is open to. So next time when the United Kingdom will join, we will host the Anglo-Celtic Recognition Conference to ensure that there is a sort of mutual understanding in the British Isles on Irish unification.
Dermot, I'm afraid I'm going to have to interrupt you there. Thank you very much for your answer. We're going to move on. Yep, please go for it.
I just have to say, I've been reading up on Fianna Fáil's policy. I'm not going to quote something from the manifesto, but what I take your general approach to foreign affairs is kind of ensuring that the Irish position as a unified Ireland on the world stage, that's kind of what you want to do, solidify Ireland's unification. Well, I just have to say that going onto the world stage and kind of trying to give off a show of strength and ensuring that Ireland remains recognised is not it's a disastrous approach to foreign affairs. I've spoken to civil servants about solidifying Ireland's unification. It's just not going to work. We have to stop with these kind of suggestions of shows of strength and trying to solidify our unification. Whilst it is important that we are a unified Ireland, right, as we speak, it's the North is ours, so to speak, I think it's a disastrous approach to take to the United Nations, and I would actually cry if Fianna Fáil ran the Department of Foreign Affairs.
I have one thing to add on to what Killian said. 2 sentences. Just wanted to say the best way to ensure Irish unification, like I think every party can agree with what I'm about to say here, UN resolution. Oh wait, we already did that. That's why we're internationally recognized as unified. It's like it's already been done. Again, this is not an argument anymore. We're unified. It's sorted. It's a done deal. Like it's over, guys. We won.
I have to agree.
Thank you, gentlemen.
If I could respond to that quickly.
Yep, go for it.
Dean, the question that was put forward is to ensure that countries who remain undecided recognise Irish unification. And so while I understand that it is international law that Ireland is unified, it's important that those countries who are still unsure, I mean, we all have to agree that we have seen in international feed, we have seen in the international community that there are nations who are currently recognising the former United Kingdom's monarch as the rightful sovereign and taking part in foreign affairs with them. And that it's our job as a nation, and along with France and the Netherlands, to ensure that in the future there is a mutual understanding within the United Nations, and that there is a rightful sovereign, that there is a rightful sort of ground, that Northern Ireland is no longer Northern Ireland; it's the north of Ireland. And as soon as a new monarch joins as soon as a new United Kingdom joins the UN, then, as far as I'm concerned, that's the United Kingdom, and they recognise Irish unification.
In order for them to get in, they would have to be approved by the UNGA and the UN Security Council, which Ireland can easily blockade in a UK that tries to contest Irish unification. I'm done. That's all I want to say.
Can I just add
thank
one
you.
sentence to that, Jeremy?
Okay, I'm gonna have to apply pressure though, as we are on a
It's
schedule.
one singular sentence. I mean, at the start of what Dermot started saying there, when he started mentioning that we have to cut down on countries interacting with the United Kingdom, what you've just said has been entirely disreputed by civil servants and people in the Department of Foreign Affairs. There's no way we can approach that without causing tension. That's all I'll say.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to ask that no one make any more responses in regards to that question. We're going to move on to our final question of the night. Our final question, Dean will be the first to answer it. Our final question is, the next government will be the one which will fight to retain Ireland's seat in the United Nations Security Council. With that in mind, how will your party ensure that Ireland remains prominent in the Security Council and in the United Nations as a whole? Dean, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Okay, I'm going to have to give the most basic answer to this. And if any party says anything different to this, it's Cap. So, first of all, William Cathcart. Like, I'm sorry, we have one of the best foreign affairs civil services on the planet who can pretty much get Ireland that record vote again. Just let them handle the campaigning, or quote unquote, the UN Security Council seat campaigning in the UN. Like, they can handle it. It's fine. You don't need greedy royal politicians to try get involved in it. It really isn't necessary. Where they can get involved, though, is producing that lovely little just eye candy handbook that countries always produce during every single UN Security Council rotary election, which, I mean, I imagine many parties here have amazing graphics people that can do it. But this comes on to my second point. I have Blair, and he's made 7 Labour Party manifestos in my time, or 7 or 6, something like that. So, yeah, I can produce a pretty good handbook to get us re-elected. It's as simple as that. There's really no debate about this among any parties. I don't think we need to even interrupt each other during this bit. It's so simple. Just let the civil service handle the campaigning. They can get Ireland that like 95% record vote thing. Just let them do it. We'll be fine. We're not at risk. That's all.
Thank you, Dean, for your answer. Sorry, you will have time in a couple of minutes. We are on a tight schedule there. We're going to move now on to the representative of Fine Gael, Mr. James Ashton. It's the same question, and you have 1 minute.
Cheers, thank you. Honestly, I completely agree with what Dean just said there. You know, we have the likes of William there, who's absolutely amazing at what he does. So I think it's completely fair. You know, there are people who literally what they do full time is domestic or diplomatic and foreign affairs. And they know the inner workings of the UN, they know the backroom channels and stuff. And I have full faith in them to get us re-elected. Those guys are amazing. So basically, I remember when we first joined the United Nations Security Council and the hassle that was. and we've done amazing stigging, and it's been great for Ireland internationally. So obviously, Fine Gael is eager to keep that on, and in any way that we can support William and the Department of Foreign Affairs and our diplomats in securing such, we will definitely do that. But like leave it up to the professionals. If politicians start getting involved, it gets messy, and it usually ends up getting a little bit messed up.
Thank you, James, for your answer there. We're going to move now on to the leader of the Labour Party, Cillian Whitaker. It is the same question, and you have 1 minute.
Well, thanks for the lovely question, Jeremy. I just have to say 95%. 95% is what Ireland received in terms of votes for the United Nations Security Council. 95%. And not only is that the work of William Cathcart in the civil service, that's the work of Labour's government as well. And as much as I love Dean, brilliant fella, what he's saying is just kind of a misinterpretation of how the DFA works.
You did not just claim credit for William Cathcart's work. You did not just do that.
I never did. You're obviously.
You said Labour Party. You said Labour
I
Party.
said that's the work of William Cathcart and the Labour Party government, so that's just misconstrued completely.
99% William Cathcart and Dan Neame, or Dan Kennedy rather.
Well, I'm not going to put it in percentages because that's not how that works. But anyway, the point is, it's not as simple as a handbook from Blair. A handbook from Blair alone cannot get us onto the Security Council, and that kind of interpretation of how the Security Council success is working is just wrong. Okay, it's about Ireland being there for our partners and projecting our shared values with the United Nations. We need those special relationships with our nations. That's what Labour has delivered. That's what the civil service in Ireland brilliantly delivered as well. And I'm sorry, but it's just completely misconstrued from Sinn Féin and Dean there. That's not how success is made on the globe. 95%, that's what Labour delivers with the civil service working at our side, if not leading that and spearheading that movement. Thank you.
Guys, is everything all right?
I think Sharon has left us there.
Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Does that mean we can go mad now?
I presume you.
I apologize.
I think we should be fair, guys. Let Dermot answer the question.
I apologize for that. Sincerely, I just had an IRL interruption, as you do. Again, I do apologize, Dermot. It's the same question, and you do have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Well, yes, as much as I do recognise the amazing work from William Cathcart, Dan, and the rest of our foreign department team, being in the United States Security Council isn't just about producing a good handbook. It's about giving back to the international community. Because although producing a good handbook and having good graphics helps with getting re-elected, what we want is not to just be there because it looks nice. We want to be there because we're able to help the international community, and that consists of, for Fianna Fáil, helping with policing aid and military aid. You've got a number of small nations in the United Nations at the moment who are willing to put in their commitment, the effort to help grow their nations, especially in places such as policing and military, and that's why we are planning on using our very, very strong assets that we have here in Ireland from the incredible work that's done in our public sector, and that's what's going to be used to be able to help give back to the international community, our partners and our counterparts, not just in Europe, but all around the globe.
Okay, I feel like I have to interrupt to clarify like two things that have been completely strawmanned by two parties at this stage. One, I'm actually going to summarize my entire argument in an equation. William Cathcart and Dan Neame plus handbook produced by Blair equals Security Council seat retained. That's what I meant.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't solely saying the handbook.
I'm sorry. I need to reply to that because I think what you're doing here is generalizing the success of not just the previous government, but also the civil service by
What
trying-
more has to be said, Killian?
Oh, I'll tell you what more has to be said. It's not as simple as a handbook. I've said I can't believe.
Yeah,
I
that's why I
said
said
this.
William Cathcart and Dan Neame.
But it's not just William Cathcart. It's not just the civil service plus handbook equals complete success on the world stage. I mean, even you should know this, team. It's about giving back, as Dermot so rightfully said. It's about giving back. It's about our shared values projected on the world stage. It's not as simple as Blair's handbook and the civil
What
service.
shared values, though? You're throwing arbitrary concepts on the stage as if you
because
know something.
That's how an approach to foreign affairs works. Our continuous stand against imperialism, embracing
There's no
the Irish
point in having a
identity.
security.
There's no threat to Irish sovereignty right now.
Dean, there is no point in having a Security Council seat if you're not going to use it for good.
What will you use it for, Nindimid? What are you gonna use it for?
I was hoping that. Have you got cloth ears, or
What do you want to use it for? Tell the audience.
Were we listening to what I just stated?
You have
Policing
30 seconds. So
policing aid, military aid to further nations, strengthening bilateral relations.
you can do that without a Security Council seat,
Can
though.
I just say, in terms of Fianna Fáil's policy, I don't think it's the responsibility of Ireland to use its resources on nations that are mostly inactive and don't contribute to the international community. I
have to agree with that.
I don't think Ireland needs to give back. We're cooperating with our partners. France, Netherlands, and Ireland share the same values, and we even met at the Tri Summit. I think Labour have struck the balance with the Department of Foreign Affairs. And not only that, our work with the civil service has been monumental in getting 95% to the UN Security Council. And to be frank with you, Jeremy, and people at home watching, I don't trust other parties with our foreign affairs. I absolutely don't. Thank you.
But I'm if I may, I have to completely disagree with you there on.
I'm afraid I cannot let this interjection. Sadly, we are on a very tight schedule. I'm going to have to move on to our closing statements. Thank you all for answering those questions posed today by the Irish public. We'll now move to we'll now move to the closing statements. Each party leader will have 2 minutes to give their closing statements. We're going to start with Dermot and end with Dean. Dermot, you have the floor. It is 2 minutes.
Thank you. Tomorrow, Ireland heads to the polls, and whatever the decision is, then I completely respect that. When you do head to the polls, I hope that people do think whether you want policies which, quite frankly, just are not needed, things that do not matter, or whether you're looking for a party that's going to be giving back not only to the international community but to the Irish people, is going to be prioritising our language, that will be prioritising cooperation between our emergency services, and basically bringing Ireland forward into the future so that we are
Thank you, Dermot, for your closing statement. We're going to now move to the leader of the Labour Party, Mr. Killian Whittaker. You have 2 minutes and the floor. Your closing statement.
Thank you, Jeremy. Well, the truth is that what we've heard from these other parties are not just interpretations of Labour's government, but also interpretations of their own policy. But that does not have to be your interpretation. Together, we can actually move forward with policy that's not just innovative, but tried and tested, a balance that we've struck. It's honest. From unionisation, Labour has succeeded. From reunification, Labour has succeeded, and so has Ireland with it. I think it's important that we remember that when we head to the polls, because with a new leader and refreshed and regenerated full cabinet, Labour is striving to make Ireland succeed. And you can let us collapse and stop the thriving that we've created under these other parties, or you can let us continue. Because the fact of the matter is that under Labour, Ireland has succeeded. It will succeed under Labour. And that's something we're going to echo throughout this campaign because it's true. Spin and nonsense is what you're going to hear from these other parties. But real facts to move forward together is what you're hearing from Labour this evening. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Killian, for your closing statement. We're going to now move to the Fine Gael representative, Mr. James Ashton. You have 2 minutes and the floor. Your closing statement, please.
Thank you. Tonight, what we've seen is the same old parties renewing and just regurgitating the same policies. We've heard from Labour
the same old. They've been in government for ages. They've had their chance and they've failed us. It's time for something new. It's time for a new face, a new government, and new ideas. And we in Fine Gael believe that was us. Tonight we've given you an example of our policies. We want to see our culture be promoted. We want to see our economy thrive. We want to see our foreign affairs stay steadfast in the brilliance that it is. We want to see our justice, our judicial system actually become functional. We want to support the emergency workers. We want to support the private and the public sectors. We want to see all that thrive. And from our opinion and our side, we believe that we're the only alternative to that. The only real alternative to Labour. So tomorrow, when you're heading to the polls, just remember that. Remember that the shape that Ireland is in right now, and whilst the foreign affairs is great, everything else is absolute shambles. That fault can be attributed to Labour. They've been in government for ages. They've had their chance and they failed us. It's time for something new. It's time for Fine Gael.
Thank you, James, for your closing statement there. We're going to now move to the leader of Sinn Féin. Dean, you have 2 minutes, the floor, and your closing statement, please.
Thank you, Jeremy. First of all, can I just say thank you for those who made it to the end of this debate. I know it's been chaotic, but it's probably been fun. So, cheers to that. Labour's been in power for 4 months, and they promised an innovation nation. All I see is a desolation nation, honestly. Fianna Fáil sat not far away from me, or rather, stood far away from me. Honestly, can't tell these days. Just write gigantic manifestos like I used to, trying to throw words in your mouth, as if they're actually planning to do anything. And Fine Gael, well, I couldn't even tell they were on the stage half the time. Truth be told, there's really not a lot different about the parties stood on this stage today, and the argument can be made I'm not much different, and partly, you'd be right. But there's one thing I do pride myself on, and that's brutal honesty, which I hope I have introduced to this debate. And truth be told, I am here to be honest. If you vote me as Taoiseach, I'll genuinely be honest. I'll do weekly conferences every Sunday at a time that I can do them. I'll put to you what I'm actually doing in your favour for this community. Do you want to see a national apprenticeship scheme? Sinn Féin will do it. Do you want to see an expansion of civil law? Sinn Féin will do it. Do you want to see actual cooperation between Ireland's pretty good services like the Irish Defence Forces and the Guards and the NAS? Sinn Féin will do it. Simple case is, Sinn Féin's the party for government right now, and Ireland could really use a government that actually governs. So, tomorrow, when you go to the polls, vote Sinn Féin. If you want to read more on our policies, read our manifesto. It's easy to read. It's in bullet point format. Find it in the campaigning channel, or ask me for it. I don't mind. But other than that, vote Sinn Féin. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean, there for your closing statements. And I'd just like to say quickly here, thank you all very much for, especially the party leaders, for attending today, and the representatives. And I'd like to apologise that we were unable to get a Social Democrat representative here. As some of you may be aware, this has been my first time presenting the RTE night debate. I hope to do this once more again, and I hope you have all enjoyed at home. Obviously, this is a new format. It's significantly shorter than the last time. And so tune in today or on Sunday for the election night, and have fun in the polls. I hope you consider what you've heard here tonight, and thank you all very much for tuning in today for this RTE election debate stream. Thank you all very much.